Here, Wardy, why don't you do the introductions?
Alrighty, well, down in the bottom left-hand side, we're going to start with the player who's on everybody's tongue at the moment. He's really just being talked about here, there, and everywhere. It is, of course, Team Liquid's Clem.
And in the bottom right-hand side, with the longest hair that he has ever had in his life, it is PtitDrogo.
That was a great interview.
It's true, it's true. He said it in an interview.
Yeah, I know. It was a great interview. That's what I was saying. Like, it was...
Yeah.
We just opened the interview, he's just pulling his hair. Like, that is the content.
Yeah, Drogo's great, man. He really is so funny and just so great at interviews and such a great personality to have in the scene. I am grateful for him. So
Yeah.
It would be great to see an upset. I would love it. I mean, if anyone can do it in France, it has to be Drogo.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty reasonable call. Yeah, Clem's, out of all, there's a lot of great French players right now, but I feel like none of them are quite close to Clem. I know Clem's obviously a lot better than a lot of people, right? But, like,
Yeah.
there's not even anyone, like, nipping on his heels or anything just yet, so... Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
Drogo, if he got back in form a little bit. It's always hard to know where Drogo's at, because he really doesn't play in anything apart from the major events, usually. He's not much of an online cup grinder. Like, he shows up to some open cups, but we never really see him get far. But then he shows up to, like, the main tournament, and he kind of looks, pretty decent,
Yeah, I think that Drogo is one of the more methodical Protoss players that we have. I almost wish sometimes that he had played Terran instead, because he has that kind of really organized approach to his play, where, he's looking after each little detail and he has everything pre-programmed very well. And if he can show up, if he's uninterrupted in his flow, I think he's super, super strong. So we'll see if he can find a snowball here somewhere.
Yeah. I feel like the early days of Drogo would disagree with that one. When he used to just, like, sentry all-in Zergs. He loved that, man.
Yeah.
Clem has a bunker up, by the way, in natural expansion of Drogo, so that's going to be a bit of an annoyance. There's one of these things that really fell out of fashion. Then Clem started doing it again, and pretty much nobody started to respect the fact that Clem started doing this again. Like, no one started checking behind the natural or anything. It's just annoying. You got to build a battery, you've got to micro this, you can't necessarily mine from the natural for a little while, so it does slow you down as the Protoss player, and again, it's oftentimes avoidable as well.
Yeah, Kelazor, of course, was one of the first ones to do this type of thing, alongside Euthermal, I would say. Those two, Kelazor and Euthermal, have always been the more experimental Terrans that try stuff out like this and try to mess up with their opponents a little bit more, whereas most Terran players are really comfortable and confident in just playing their own game and the organized approach that I was referring to earlier. So it's good to see Clem mix it up. It's really important to kind of just get in your opponent's head and to kind of mess things up for them and their plan, especially someone with an as organized of an approach as Drogo is.
This micro on the SCV is good. Every time a shot flies towards it, it's in the bunker. Just maximizing how long this bunker will stay alive for, just being as annoying as possible. Looks as though it is time for it to go down. He will not stop until the very end, though. And it gives him time to now sneak the Hellion into the main, which wouldn't have been possible if that bunker had gone down a moment or two earlier. So it was all for a purpose. As now an extra pro goes down, make that maybe another. He actually missed a shot there. And that should have maybe been one more probe. I think he probably could have snuck one extra attack, and if he hadn't misstepped initially.
I absolutely love that point, Wardy, that you bring up, because it's so difficult to do what Clem just did. And it was all for a purpose, right? Like, it all leads into that Hellion getting in, and otherwise there's no chance that it does. Like, he had to micro the Reaper so many times even to soak up shots, the SCV to soak up shots, even gets a probe at the natural, and with that consistent non-stop micro, he makes his way or room for that Hellion. It doesn't, it's not a great Hellion in the end. It gets like 2 probes. But imagine he keeps it up for another couple of seconds, right? Against a lesser player, not against PtitDrogo. Maybe that Hellion even does more damage or forces Drogo to choose between his natural and his main to defend.
And now we're going to have Clem just setting up with additional racks, getting ready for the next stage of this game, which looks as though it will be at least a little bit aggressive, right? In the sense of at least it's not going to be 3cc super quickly, so... And here comes the Oracle, something that obviously Clem has to push back as well, and he does do that pretty aptly. Couple workers going down, Drogo just taking his third, and again, has these Phoenix to try and stop any further early aggression happening.
Yeah, I love the way that they found out as well to make sure that they cover all the ground possible where there could be medevacs or anything else headed his way, like a Liberator. So in doing that, he arrives a little bit later with 2 of the Phoenixes, but he will arrive no less. We'll have to lift up just to force that Cyclone to not lock on anymore into the Phoenix and save its life.
Yeah, nice little bit of micro there. As Drogo continuing to commit hard into these Phoenix as Clem moves into that bio army. I like that he's got charge started. The most important thing is having charge for the timing that the Terran wants to attack at, because if you don't have charge at the time the Terran attacks, you're just in so much trouble. If those tanks get sieged, you don't have any power to just, you know, run into them at all. It can be really, really tough for you. So I like what we're seeing out of Drogo. Seems like he's got things well planned out, and don't think he should run into too much trouble against the initial pushing of Clem.
Yeah, and I also love for that same reason the stasis trap. It's gonna buy him even additional time, so it should work out well. If he gets charged, we could see a little bit of a repeat to the situation that we saw earlier from DNS and Euthermal, as Clem is very quick to repair and save that Cyclone from the Phoenix.
Yep, keeping that alive. Nicely handled. It's just going to be seen our units now going to start that push. Again, it is a decent map for pushing, and you don't even necessarily have to go too far. Even if you just siege a bit outside of the natural and then you kind of, again, drop up, it could be really cool. The Phoenix are going to go for the reinforcement route, so they're going to just, you know, look to shut down any reinforcing units. Clem's going to walk through the slow zone just to give Drogo a bit more time to get ready here.
Yeah, 1 single Marine will activate the stasis, as Clem knows that this is a possibility, and stimps 1 Marine forward. Now, this would be something to study if you are an opponent of Clem, kind of where he's accounting for this. As the tanks are unsieged, when Drogo collapses onto the army of Clem, it's looking pretty good for the French Protoss.
Yeah, he gets a good jump on Clem's army there. Clem was not quite ready for Drogo to come jumping on him. And now he's going to be able to chase all the way. Power of the Phoenix is that chase potential, right? Being able, well, I mean, it should be, but then all of a sudden Clem has more units and he is going to turn this around. Maybe Drogo went a bit too far, losing the sentry, and that will be it for the moment. But yeah, just Drogo jumping on Clem at the right point in time. And yeah, having that chase potential for a while, because Phoenix can obviously lift up any of the running units.
Yes, indeed. Now, the point that I was making, maybe the stasis trap could be placed in the middle of the map, because Clem wasn't stimming forward a Marine until it was time to look for those stasis trap further down the line. But I mean, if you stasis trap in the middle of the map, sure, you can't catch the army to kill it, but you're definitely stalling for yourself. So that could be an option in the future to look at if you study Clem's play. In the meanwhile, we see him situating his third. He's going to be far behind Drogo on that regard. I would love to see Drogo take a fourth here soon, if he isn't planning on collapsing onto Clem's third, which could be wide open if he breaks the rocks.
Yep. Yeah, looking pretty good in that regard. If the rocks go down, it definitely gives you that push-in potential. Clem just going to be having the extra racks finishing as well. And now Drogo, he is also going to go for Storm as his first kind of upgrade of the game in terms of splash damage, or his first splash damage choice. Obviously, not all of splash damage comes from upgrades. It's just going to be seen a Marine just trying to scout out, trying to see what's up. We'll see how this Storm style is going to do for Drogo here on Blackburn.
Very interesting to see indeed. He's going to be looking potentially for a timing before Ghosts are out. There is a War Prism on the way as well, perhaps to shelter those High Templars. And a very Marauder-heavy army that's going to be pushing against predominantly Zealots. So this could still fare well for Drogo, though his army does get scanned, including the Templars. Might have to morph those into Archons if he is going to be looking for a hold here, though Storm is almost finished.
Phoenix is going to stop the tank drop going any further into the main base, but it is going to still get sieged up on the low ground there. Storm ain't ready yet, and Clem is just going to push forward and see what he wants to do near his shield battery, so isn't going to be able to get too much done. Nice little counterattack and some SCVs. Good play from Drogo.
Very good, and it also forces Clem to, I was gonna say to stall his attack, but no, Clem reacts regardless. He's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll deal with that eventually. I'm gonna drop into your main instead. Here comes Drogo with those Templars loaded into the War Prism. Could get some juicy storms here, as they are gonna drop on top of the army and storm themselves and their friends, but at what cost? At the cost of Clem's army. Beautiful job from Drogo.
Yeah, nicely timed. Couple of Widowmine shots going off here as the Phoenix chase for the medevacs. Liberators are now trying to get involved, as bio units are going to make sure that the War Prism doesn't get a chance to warp in. I mean, just a crazy game that's going to continue right now with this continued push forward from Drogo. The tanks are finally lifted up by the Phoenix. The reinforcements of Clem are such low HP, and that's why the Archon comes in. He's going to get a lot of kills very quickly against units that don't have a lot of health. So, well, nicely defended by Drogo. I was very worried when those units just go straight to the main, because that's the power of Blackburn. You just hop up into the main, Drogo's out of position. But yeah, well handled, brought those High Templars in and got the storms he needed.
I mean, Clem is a devil, right? Like, he actually used the attack of Drogo onto his third as a launching pad for his own attack, which is usually the opposite of what happens. Most Terran players have to focus on those two zealots, at least for a couple of seconds. Instead, Clem's like, oh, well, while you're looking at your little run-by, I'm gonna sneak into your main with everything. So crazy reactions, time and speed and prioritizing from Clem. Very well done by Drogo. And I mean, those mines kind of saving things for Clem as well on the retreat. Otherwise, it could have been a really clean cleanup. As it stands, Clem still with a little bit of a lead, and 3 ghosts now on the way, but they're not here yet, so this Templar is still with some potential.
And his Lib Siege up. I mean, the Bio Army just has no healing in it, right? So it's all low HP. He stims, then he takes some storm damage. I mean, the Liberators do a lot of the initial damage here, I feel, but Clem gets pushed back, and I mean, now a couple of medevacs show up, so I feel a little bit better about his army being out here, but of course, now the main point of power is gone for him.
Yes, indeed. Drogo also making pylons at potential expansions from Clem, so he's going to be able to deny those for a little bit longer and also get a little bit of tabs on where the army of Clem is, provided that he uses some army to clean those. At the same time, I think Drogo did well to retreat, as he had run out of zealots at that point, but retains most of his expensive units through that engagement. So things are still looking very well doable for Drogo, but as we say that,
here comes the recall to the top right, trying to defend an attack he didn't really see coming. He recalls into Widow Mines. Super Battery goes down, and Clem will be pushed back, but it's a pretty good trade for Clem considering he gets those Widow Mines off. Archon goes down initially, and of course now puts the cooldown on the recall, so maybe a chance or two for Clem to get something else done with continued army movement.
Yeah, unfortunate for Drogo, because he does have spotting pylons on a lot of the maps, so doesn't see that one particular attack coming and doesn't see the army movement of Clem ever since. But he has a War Prism in a pretty good spot to see the army here and potentially get some nice storms yet again.
EMP lands on that Prism. That gets healed up straight away. It's just going to be seeing everything else still sitting there defensively. Drogo's playing a really good defensive game, right? Like, he's kind of letting Clem do what Clem likes to do, which is to attack. But he's just saying, well, it doesn't matter if he attacks into me if I'm very well set up to defend it and receive it every single time.
Yeah, the snipe actually whiffs on the side of Clem, was aiming probably for the Templar, instead snipes onto a Zealot. Uncharacteristic. And here comes the War Prism. It's gonna come down to these storms. Be careful with the mines, Drogo, as all of his Zealots will falter to them.
Yeah, it's good damage done. Obviously, Clem has an EMP or 2 to hit on High Temple as they move. He's got the units on the bottom side starting to do a little bit better as well. Going to turn around onto this now. Hits another EMP. Going to reset the shields and the barriers on the Immortals. And maybe Clem can outnumber Drogo in this fight now. And he is going to take, I mean, the power of the Immortals, because they're not targeted right away. They do chunk down a lot of those Marauders.
Yeah, and if that fight had extended a little bit longer, the reinforcements of Clem might have been enough to close things out. But yeah, I mean, those Widow Mines on the retreat, Drogo knew they were there, but he didn't do anything to account for them, as he was in a rush to get to this location to try and defend against a relentless Clem.
And that's what it is. It's relentless, and it's eventually just wearing Drogo down. Drogo did a lot of defensively, a lot of things defensively great in this game. And now it's just going a bit wrong for him. A couple mines hit from the side, and they're going to take the health and the shields away from Archons and the Immortals. And it just makes it easier for Clem to justify continuing into this attack. Super Battery was already used. And yeah, I actually love the word relentless, because without being relentless here, Clem does not find anywhere near this much success in this game.
Absolutely. It's just like he's not, this is like what you could do if you weren't macroing at all. But Clem's macro is like brilliant on the he's like just non-stop moving his army, and he's moving it like in very clean patterns, like where, closest distance to where he can be annoying. Like, I'm thinking, how do you react if you're Drogo? Like, you would want to break every rock ever so that you can, pass through things a little bit easier or something. I don't know.
Hey, it's brutal, man. Like, he just keeps swinging from one side to the other, and Drogo looked well set up initially and again, and I wouldn't initially say that any real defense was bad for a while, and then it just started getting out of hand. Suddenly he had to be over here a bit too soon. That makes him panic. He loses a unit or two, runs back through Widow Mines, and that just makes the difference. And of course, like you say, it is the fact that Clem's just macroing perfectly behind it as well, right? Because then if you slip it all as Drogo, Clem's just going to hit you full strength again. And, I feel like so many of, Terran players, if we watch this game play out, would just lose this game because they're just throwing units at a Protoss pointlessly and, they're just going to fall apart. The Protoss defends and boom, they move you and win the game or something, right? Because you've just lost too many army units. But it feels like Clem never loses too many army units. It's genuinely incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of like non-stop checking his opponents, check, check until it's checkmate, and then you're just done. I mean, crazy. What can you do? But a problem for Drogo in that game that he might be looking to solve. I'm not sure if the blink was late there or if it was existing at all for the first bunch of the game. But he never really got to punish Clem on the retreat either, right? Like he never got to okay, I stopped your attack, now I'm gonna clean up. That just didn't happen. It was like Clem always got away.
There was that one time the Phoenix were chasing him, like, okay, this is it, right? This is the moment where you actually get in there and you're actually going to make the difference. And no, not at all. Like, suddenly Clem has extra units showing up and it actually turns out to be bad for you. You've actually overcommitted forward. And that's just the mayhem of Clem. Like, he's just always seeming got those few extra units that make the difference and just turn those extra fights, turn the little parts of those fights into his advantage to eventually win out. And it's obviously, it sounds like we're just praising Clem, but it's really hard not to. What he's doing is genuinely impressive.
Yeah, incredibly impressive. I think you're talking about the Widow Mines. There also when the Phoenixes chase Clem out of his base, there's an anchor and you think, okay, finally he's going to clean up onto those tanks on the low ground for free. Not free at all. There's 2 Widow Mines with them for some reason, and then reinforcements arriving. He just doesn't stop. Anyway, let's see if Drogo can find some breathing room in this game and maybe initiate aggression or something to stop Clem from doing something. In the top left-hand side of the map, it is PtitDrogo.
Taking on in the bottom right-hand side from Team Liquid, our red Terran player, Clem.
That is the only weakness that I've seen from Clem, and I saw it in TVZ in particular. He's just so good at attacking and so good at trading actions that he will almost do it to a fault, right? Against roaches, for example, a lot of the time the right call is just sit back. Clem will still attack into roaches. I'm not sure if there's a Protoss equivalent though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because roaches, it's maybe if they're just not on enough bases, if they're 2 base or something. That's the only thing I can really think of, right? If they're 2 base Colossus, you don't want to attack into them, but Clem probably would anyway. Right.
Right. That's the thing, is we think that he might, right? Even though it would be very obviously a bad idea. But I mean, that's the ultimate mind game, right? It's just play super defense and hope that Clem will be Clem.
Yeah. It's kind of sad when that's your option,
Right, yeah. Your opponent makes a tactical mistake because of how good he is at controlling his army and just attacking nonstop. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else you beat him. Good luck, guys.
Have fun with that one. Okay, well, we do have our probe and SCV scouting and return back, so nothing really too wild to begin with here. Everyone's kind of happy. There's expansions down. No one's, like I say, doing anything too outrageous or crazy, anything along those lines. So that's good to see.
Good indeed. We'll see what happens here. Stargate will go down from Drogo. Again, a very methodical player, likely to see an Oracle again. That's probably just what he feels comfortable with at this point in time in this matchup. So, wow, we'll see if that's the follow-up.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, you could go Phoenix if you want to play a very just macro-focused game on this map. You play Phoenix, you make sure you don't die to anything, you go into your Colossi. That's the other option, but it does kind of mean you're going to be sitting back a lot more instead of taking the initiative.
Yes, indeed. Another thing, maybe what DNS did against your thermal could have been an option. Maybe not so much anymore with the Stargate, but just massing gateway units to try and crush the first attack of Clem and then go on the counter offense, kind of like a Cert might do. That could have maybe worked, but I mean, given the Stargate, okay, at least it's Phoenix. And yeah, I mean, Colossus on this map, they can still work pretty well.
Yep, Yeah, we'll see what he wants to do, because you can of course play like Phoenix Charge just on this map. Do you want to play Phoenix Charge? Probably not so much, because again, it is just that more macro focused map.
It's also very choky at the first 3 expansions, so Zealots are not gonna have, you know, a great deal of space to work with unless the forward 4th is taken. So I would very much like to see Colossus, and we see the robotics bay now being dropped, or facility rather, so it looks like we are headed in that direction. Another thing that I love about the Phoenix is they're also good defensive units, right? Like, whereas the Oracle is more proactive and whatnot, the Phoenix is kind of just, you know, he's gonna get a good scout, and then he's gonna make sure that Clem isn't doing something to ramp up on the aggression early on.
Yep, no, exactly. It really is the way you control the game a lot of the time in TVP. It's one of the easier ways to control the game, especially against someone who makes it as chaotic as Clem does. So can't fault him for the choices. The third base will now get the chance to go on down, and Clem just starts up his bio upgrades. So heading into, you know, a couple minutes from now, a chance to see Clem on the map and starting to maybe relentlessly push all over again.
You know, if we get an interview with Drogo, I want to ask about the triple shade onto the 1 Marine. Is that like I'm gonna kill that Clem Marine no matter what, I think, or what?
I must kill it. Yeah. I mean, hey, if you're playing against Clem, I'd be happy if I killed a Marine.
Me too, me too. It's like, just make sure that you kill it, you know, secure the kill there.
Yeah. Man, I always get a bit worried when people play Phoenix when the terrain goes like very, very quickly into this bio play, right? Because it always feels as though the Phoenix need to buy a bunch of time, and if you're not very careful about setting up at home, you can just be in trouble. I mean, look how quickly Clem's moving out. His upgrades aren't done yet, but when they are done, he's going to be right up in your face. And that's kind of terrifying. So, Drogo, he's building Robo Bay, Twilight, Forge, nothing that's going to help him to defend right now. So,
Observer, now Colossus, it's not going to be done in time either. I mean, this shield battery, not even in range to be overcharged. The second shield battery might be in time to defend. I mean, at least Adepts are good against Marines, so that's going to help out a little bit that there's not too many Marauders here, and the shield battery overcharge preemptively used, but that's okay because it buys time for the Colossus, and if he is able to deflect this, I'd call that a pretty solid start for Drogo.
He's going to go up. Here he goes. Super battery's going to fade away now, and Clem is just going to move back down, so decides that continuing this fight is just not going to be worthwhile, so backs it up. And that will do us for the moment, cats. We're going to see Clem just going to back away, especially with the Colossus here. I don't think there's many more attacks left in use, so I think we do just back this up. And yeah, we'll just wait for the next step. Phoenix still being aggressive, but I mean, at this stage, you've lost a Phoenix as well, so that's something to keep in mind also.
Yeah, most definitely. Now charge being started, as well as Drogo's own upgrades. He is positioning a pylon to try and spot for potential drops. So once again, very well on the defense. That is the one weak area potentially. However, Clem is gonna kind of sneak here, but not before he gets swiped by a Colossus. The one single Marine does absorb the first Colossus shot, and these Adepts are actually evaporating.
Yeah, they go down very quickly, but a second Colossus showing up, and it'll be crazy how quickly those Marines melt now. So is time to get out of there. Moves away, and yeah, again, I mean, Clem 17 Marines for 12 Adepts. Pretty darn good trade, cats.
It really is, especially because those Colossus really thrive off of meat shields, and you know, all of the meat is now gone. So what are they gonna do now as Drogo continues to tech up, continues to add you know, forges and things that are gonna come into play in his defense a little bit later. A lot of gateways as well at the same time. Is Clem gonna give him enough breathing room to make all of this pop in?
Yeah, we'll find out, right? As Clem coming across the map at the moment is looking a little scary already. Lions making their way across the far left. Blink is on the way up, +1 attack, and about to finish. And armor on the way just now started, so Clem actually is going to have, what, 1-1 against +1? I always feel like that's very scary when you don't have the armor upgrade, just because, you know, your front line does melt that quickly. I mean, obviously, I know you've got attack upgrade to help the Colossi out, but a couple of these Zealots getting caught already as they try and move on the map for vision, and Clem's just going to instantly deny the attempt of a 4th base.
Yeah, I really don't want Drogo moving out on the map right now. It seems a little bit scary, given that he doesn't really have that many units, and given that he has been as greedy as he has adding tech. So I think that this tech is likely to pay off. Look at Clem, you devil! Absolute madman. Just baiting the Phoenix. into the mines that were already pre-dropped. That medevac was just bait. Yeah, it was empty.
Yeah, I know. It's just perfect, isn't it? Because now you set up that Widow Mine drop to actually hit and actually deal damage later. It's just perfect. You need 2 mines to kill the 2 Phoenix that are defending that position. Very well done by Clem. Very well handled. As now he's going to let the Marauders sit in front, and almost feels like he's ready to dive, man. He's like, 3 Colossi and Archon. I think Marauders fight that, right? Yeah, when you Clem, maybe they do. As the medevac is not going to do well here. He is somehow going to get the unload, and
it don't matter.
No shots go off.
Yeah, fortunately for Drogo, he has 2 cannons in that location. That is very much a Clem adjustment, but these 4 just going down are gonna be huge. And Clem knows to focus fire them. Perhaps even the blink wouldn't finish, but it doesn't seem like Clem is too preoccupied with that one. Stargate.
Interesting choices, right? The Stargate over the Twilight. I guess the Stargate, killing the Stargate means you're not going to be able to rebuild like a Phoenix or something, or in this case was the Void Ray to like hunt down medevac, so maybe just wants to keep on playing drop heavy. Yeah, surprised not to see the Twilight go down, because obviously removing Blink for a bit longer is a pretty big deal. Of course, the one thing about denying Blink is that it's not like it delays other upgrades. Like once Blink is denied, it's just Blink is denied, right? It comes back online and that's it. Whereas killing the Forges for sure is better, because now not just +2/+1 is denied, but then +3/+2 is much later as well. There's that knock-on effect.
Absolutely. Also, I'm not sure that he knew that Blink was being researched, because it's the least. Yeah, I mean, the Twilight is just tricky like that, right? It's so difficult to know that it's researching anything. So
we actually see Drogo rebuilt the Stargate. I'm really intrigued as to what he wants to actually do with the Stargate. Whether it's just like he wants it up to make sure he's ready for when he wants to like throw down more Stargates and a fleet beacon later. That's all I can imagine. Doesn't really need it right now, as we do see a couple Marines going to get clipped. We'll see that Destructor doing okay here. Vikings is going to try and get some initial shots off from Colossi. I mean, you already see the popping of that super battery, so Clem won't waste any shots just yet. It does mean there's going to be a little while where Drogo will not have that super battery available.
Yeah, and Clem is maxed out. I mean, 10 minutes in, he's maxed out and looking to attack here. He's making himself additional ground, but Drogo has invested a lot into static defense as well, which is part of why he's not closer in supply to Clem. It doesn't feel like this game has gotten terribly out of hand for Drogo, but here comes Clem with everything. A huge fan of units everywhere as the Colossus are tucked in, and they are still standing strong against a minimum number of Vikings that are gonna slowly work away at them, and now 2 have fallen. This is looking more and more difficult for Drogo, who played a slow game, but it was not enough